527, I have your release. On behalf of the flight crew, thank you for flying with us and have a pleasant day.
Hey everyone, it's Ben Watson here, and today on the show I have Julian Carr. I am super stoked to have him. Julian is a professional alpine skier, as well as he owns a clothing company called Discreet, and he's the owner of the Cirque series, the running series here that's local as well as in a couple other states.
Yeah, we're in Sun Valley, A-Base in Colorado, and up in Alaska at Alyeska.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in 4 states now.
And today he just joined the test pilot squad, and so we're building him some custom orthotics and getting him dialed in. And so I am super excited to have you.
Me too. I mean, I'm on my feet so much. I'm in the mountains constantly, and I'm just really excited to have you have a look and make sure my feet are really dialed. So thank you.
Yeah, I checked out your Instagram feed, and I was blown away. I actually didn't think that you could do the type of stuff that you're doing at that level.
I mean, it's funny because I've become like the cliff guy in the ski industry. I just love cliffs. I think they're beautiful. And I think I've just spent so much time in the mountains that, there's like a fluency, I think, that you gain just from spending so much time. You start to kind of speak the language, and I can plainly see how to accomplish lots of these cool cliffs. And to me, it all makes sense. It's kind of like a hyper awareness or, kind of meditation, if you will. But then I'll see photos of them afterwards when I'm not in that mind space. And it looks absolutely crazy. I don't know how I ended up being this guy that loves this stuff, but here I am. I love it.
How did it start? You're a little, where did you grow up? Did you grow up
I grew
here?
up in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I grew up in Salt Lake, and I was mostly doing team sports. I did a lot of gymnastics, and that actually led, I think, into my strange, attraction to cliffs, is because I spent a ton of time in the foam pit. I was always just jumping off trampolines in the foam pit. I had a trampoline in my backyard. I just loved being in the air. And when I started skiing in 8th grade, I kind of, right away was like, whoa, snow is like really cool. This is like a giant foam pit in the mountains. So that kind of perspective's never changed. I think that I just look at the high alpine environment as just a bigger, foam pit.
And how big were you going in high school?
Oh man, in high school, I was, starting to play with 30, 40-foot cliffs. And then into college, started kind of growing. And that's the thing, it's like been a strange, expansion zone of like comfort zone, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I'm comfortable with these 10-foot cliffs, now I want to try 20. And then, have enough passion and time to chase those situations. And throughout these years, it's so weird for me to say it, but I'm comfortable with 200-foot cliff.
You did not mishear that. 200 foot.
Yeah.
So
210's my biggest.
210.
Yeah.
210. What does that feel like?
I mean, it's incredible. It's it's a time warp. I'll have multiple streams of full, complete thoughts go through my head in like multiple split seconds throughout like this, what ends up being a 4.5 second experience. But I live so much. The mechanics, the aerial, the physical part of it, of course, is incredible. But I think the fun part for me is this strange mental like timeout you get that I've never experienced anything like it. It's truly like tapping into some other time continuum.
So how did that happen, that progression of like, oh, I can go bigger? I don't like, it's massive. You can like, when did you figure out that I'm not going to die? This is going to be okay? I
think I had a strange epiphany at one point because I was kind of stuck in the 50, 60-foot cliff height zone towards the end of college. And, it was pretty scary to think about doing anything bigger. Just like we all are, we're super scared to go bigger than that because 60 feet's already giant. It's a big cliff, And I finally was like, you know what? If I just have to go from like 50 feet to 100 feet, really what it boils down to is maybe like another half a second of composure. because by the time you go off the first 50 feet, to get that next extra 50 feet, only maybe another half a second of composure is needed. And once I kind of started understanding that I was like, okay, all it is like literally another half a second of remaining calm in the air, and it will feel the exact same as every 50-foot I've ever done.
People said his brain was infected by devils.
What about your speed? Do you feel like you're increasing in speed during?
You do, for sure, by a lot.
Yeah.
But it's when people jump 100 feet off a bridge, like into water, or in Lake Powell or something, it doesn't sound that crazy. Like, people jump 100 feet off like a waterfall or whatever all the time. It doesn't sound that crazy. Water's flat, it hurts. But if you find super deep snow and you do your homework and it's on an angle, plus you have your speed, and when those two things come together, it's not that at all. It is this.
So what's the sweet spot for you?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a huge snow year. So, I mean, up high where I'm doing these cliffs, there's going to be at least, a 20-foot snow base underneath, probably a week of recent storms, and then culminating with 2 to 3 foot of brand new snow overnight. So by the time you do it, it's 3 feet of fluff on top of another 5 feet of pretty soft snow you can get through.
Yeah.
On top of 20 feet.
Got it.
That's the sweet spot.
Okay. And the steeper the slope, the better?
You don't want to get too steep, because obviously safety's a priority, and it could be,
Don't want to slough out. And
you're
slide
basically
on
a projectile at that point, and you don't want to cause something to slide. So there's a sweet spot on the kind of the steepness.
Okay.
You want it not to be flat, but you don't want it too steep either.
It's just a look. Is that what you kind of just look at it and say, hey, that looks good?
Yeah, and that's part of the fun. Like, I love getting to a new area, traveling, and my eye is always drawn to cliffs for some reason, and that's part of the fun, is wrapping your head around it. And you're like, wow, that one looks really fun. How can I pull that off? And then you have to start, just kind of like reverse engineering how you're going to pull it off, So the first thing you look at is like, well, how sheer is the cliff? Can I get off the takeoff? Like, is there any strange trees or rocks that are up there? Or is it an avalanche-prone slope? Or is there things above there, like a cornice, that could interfere with that takeoff? And then the landing, of course. And it's like fueled by all this fear because it's scary.
Right.
But then you think it's like concentration juice. You use all that fear to pour it into your safety assessment. And after you start checking off the list of the landing is good to go, no doubt about it. I just spent a day or 2 days or a week, cruising by the landing and probing in a big area. And finally you'll get to the point where, like, today's the day, and you'll go make that, like, that's 100%, no doubt about it. And that fear literally converts into just this supreme confidence. And then you look at the sheerness, and all these uncertainties are becoming very certain. And by the time it's a yes, by the time it's a go, you're so, like I said, in this state of hyper awareness where you're like, I feel like I'm like tapping into the like the electromagnetic like spectrum of the snow and the sky and the rock and me, and all of our properties are just like this nice harmonized mixture. And I'm 100% certain I can do this and do it safely. So there's zero fear when it's a yes. And even if a hair on my body doesn't feel good about it, I don't do it every time, because it has to be 100%.
Yeah, you got to be in the zone.
And it does. It gets turned into absolute bizarre awareness, like confidence. It's just like this strange, calming confidence.
What's the landing like? What's that feel like?
Like a big pile of leaves. It's a non-impact. You don't feel it.
Do you pop out, or do you stay?
In a best case scenario, because I'll usually do a front flip off like a big cliff, and by the time you come around, you kind of hit your full body, and then a lot of that impact kind of goes into your skis and boots. And typically, as you're interacting with the snow on the landing, you kind of get your skis back underneath you, and you're skiing away out of your dust your cloud of smoke. So there was never a stop. Every once in a while, your ski will come off, and I'll always have someone that can ski to me in case, the worst case scenario is that I go way deep in the snow and it like falls in on top of me and I can't get out.
Right.
So I always have someone.
Has that happened then?
Once.
Yeah.
And I had someone that had to come get me. But
yeah. It was
that's
super,
part of my protocol.
super soft snow or something.
Super
like
soft snow.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was just, that happens.
Yeah.
It's
Okay, what were your friends or parents thinking as this happened, as the whole progression of you going bigger and bigger? Were they like, I don't think that's a good idea? Or were they like, I support you, I trust you? Because you seem like you kind of are in tune.
Yeah. Well, I think my mom had a hard time with it. And
I bet.
She, at a certain point once, she just asked me, like, really honestly, she said, "Do you love what you do?" And I was like, "I really do, Mom. I love it." And she's like, "Okay, I guess I can have peace with that." She's like, "I can be happy. I know you love it." And my dad actually, when he was teenager, college, he was a rock musician, and he had long hair. He'd go tour, and he was way into cliff diving naked, basically, with his hair out, traveling all over, and he'd find like the local spot. And so he was doing swan dives off 60, 80-foot cliffs.
Wow.
Into water.
Wow.
And so I grew up with that visual and that happening around me as a kid. So I think that also led to my just what I was interested in as a kid with foam pits and all that. I was already wanting to jump off stuff because I was watching my dad do it. So he understood me. He knew how to ask me about like the safety of it. He understood the mental part of it. He understood how it is a calculated formula of, a cool aerial, that has a controlled set of factors that goes into doing something, because he was used to doing swan dives. So it's fun to talk to my dad about it because he gets it.
So how many of your friends came along with you on this ride?
That's the funny thing is a lot of my friends it's been fun for them to watch me break free of where we all were in the 30, 40-foot cliff zone, and then suddenly it just started making more sense to me. So I've had a lot of great friends that just are a fan of seeing me go down this path and pull it all off, because they're definitely a fan of it because they're proud of their boy,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks.
I watched videos over and over again because it's like, oh wow, because I dreamt about that stuff of my whole life. I have dreams about that.
Yeah.
But it's not a reality. I can't. I have too much fear to be able to overcome it. But
I think that's like I said, it's strange that I am doing it because every once in a while I'll be out in some random, remote, beautiful mountain range somewhere on the planet, and I will be figuring out a 120-foot cliff, and I'll be going through all the motions, and it all is looking good, and then I'll be up on the takeoff, getting it all figured out, talking to the camera crew, producing this, very rare act that a human's going to do in the mountains. And every once in a while I'll just take a step back real time, and I'm like, this is so weird that this is my life, that I'm literally calmly producing a camera crew and this beautiful like scenery that I'm in, and this mountain range I might not ever get back to in my entire life, and I'm about to do something that not many people in the world do or have ever done. And it's just like, this is so bizarre that this is like my path, and it's because I get it, it's a really wild path, it's a highly dangerous, you can feel your mortality, and I love life, but that's, I think, what's so fun about this path is loving life so much that you want to kind of feel the elasticity of the boundaries that all us humans are given, because they're pretty static. There's a lot of things that define like how you go about with your self-preservation, and to like explore those boundaries where bad things can happen, but do it in a way that I feel like is respectful. I have good intent. I know my heart's into it, my mind's into it, and I'm doing it for the right reasons. And it's cool that those boundaries do have some elasticity. It ends up,
And this has opened up a lot of pathways and doors for you.
Yeah, it's been great from making a career out of it. Is like, man, I just think if there's some other guy doing big cliffs like this, I would sure want him to be documenting it to share it. So that's the way I look at it. I'm like,
totally,
I'd want to see it. So I'm trying to do my best to be a professional. But
and tell me about Discreet.
Discreet is just my little baby. It's a little outdoor company, and we're kind of like a headwear brand. So we make about 50 different styles of beanies and neck gaiters. We'll make hoodies and flannels, but it's a pretty small, like I said, just outdoor winter headwear brand.
We were talking about how you got a dog and started hiking more, and then is that how the Cirque series came about, or? Pretty
much. Skiing, what seems like usually we're taking like a helicopter, but usually we're hiking and we're boot packing for a couple hours up to the top of a cool peak, and then we'll ski down it. It's great, but I like the that kind of time where it's like 2 hours to hike up something really cool and then treat yourself on the way down. And in the summer times I was mostly mountain biking, and you can't really access the high alpine. That's really tricky and highly technical on a mountain bike. And so every once in a while I'd like to go like hike Pfeifferhorn or like the South Ridge of Mount Superior. And then I got this great dog, and I took her on a few mountain bike rides, and I was like, man, she liked that, but if she does this for years, she's gonna wear it down. So at the time I lived right by the trailhead to Mount Olympus, and so I started hiking Olympus 4 or 5 days a week, and she was really happy. I was getting in amazing shape, and I would try to invite my friends, and they're like, oh, I don't really trail run. Like, I'm not a runner. And I'm like, well, I'm not either, really. It's different. Like, we're going at sunset or sunrise. It's beautiful. We're getting in great shape. Like, and then you get to an amazing summit, and then you run down. It's like really, your agility's tested, and like it's just a really fun mountain adventure. And I got so into Mount Olympus, and me and my pup, are just banging them out for a year.
Fun. F-U-N, fun. That's something that you can do when everything is mellow.
Friend of mine's wife, she was like, hey, I see you're always on Olympus. We're going to Moab next week. We're going to do this trail run race. Do you want to do it? I was like, is there any elevation involved? Because I really like just going up and down. And she's like, oh, not really. I mean, it's Moab, But anyway, she's like, I signed you up. You're doing it. We're going camping next week. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So we go down there, and at the time I thought I was fast before I started actually getting into the trail run scene and realizing how fast people are. But I got second at this little race, and I had a ton of fun. There's like 300 or 400 people there, and there was just no I got a gift certificate to the coffee shop for getting second, and this race cost like $80, and there's like 400 people. We're the only people that pulled our car up and like popped the trunk and like had a beer and like cheered people through the finish line. Everyone was just kind of waiting for their friend and going home because there's no scene. I'm like, man, there's a lot of interesting people here. Like, this trail run community is like really interesting. There's lots of cool people here. Like, I can tell they all want to have a good time, but there's nothing here to foster that other than a beautiful race. It was an actual, beautiful race. But I was like, huh. And like I said, at the time I thought it was fast. So I was like, I wonder what other trail run races there are in Utah that are like hiking up Mount Olympus. That's what I wanted to do. So I looked into that space, and I was just shocked to only find like the ultra 100-mile races through the mountains, and like the Speedgo, the 50K, that still has like 15 or 16,000 vert, gnarly. Like that's a big endeavor. And I was like, where is like the 6-mile race with 3,000 vert that you go to a really cool peak and back down? Like, how does that not exist? And it's kind of fleeting in the back of my head, but I was like, man, I should create like the Wasatch Classics, and we'll like race up Olympus and Grandeur and like Beacon Peak, And a whole nother winter went by, and in the spring I was in Iceland, and we were hiking all these beautiful lines, looking over the Arctic Ocean. On the last day, we hike up to this beautiful chute, and I'm like just taking it in, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna start that race series. I'm gonna do it. Obviously tracing it all the way back to getting my dog. If I wouldn't have, stopped mountain biking a ton, my dog is what got me on the Olympus Trail a lot. And then realizing there just wasn't any races that are like that. And our races now, they're in 4 states, and we have 6 races, and on average, 7 miles with 3,500 vert, hitting an iconic peak and coming back down. Great brands are there. We usually have 20, 25 brands, amazing announcer, food, great music, and it's just an awesome mountain party. It's a celebration of the mountains, because I'm used to skiing a day in the mountains. Coming down and like having a drink with your friends is like part of the day. You want to celebrate all the adventures you just had. So I try to bring that kind of après spirit to these races. It's like when you finish the race, you finish into an environment that you are like having a great time with lots of fun people that just had a great time in the mountains with you.
And we have 3 races locally this summer, right?
Yeah. So there's a race at Brighton and at Alta and at Snowbird.
We signed up as a sponsor, so we'll be there, and so you can hit us up at our booth. And are you running the races?
Yeah, I've run them all up to this point.
So how is that? How can you just let it go? Like who's running the show?
Well, I'm still the race director.
Yeah.
And the way I look at event production is it's like setting a buffet table. And if you do a really good job of setting up your buffet table ahead of time, you can still eat with everybody else. So that's just my analogy I use with like my whole team. I'm like, we should be able to produce this to the point that it's so well done that we get to sit down and eat, And it's obviously an event and things happen, and I'm ready to not run if there's something that I need to be available for.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a working lap. I'm checking out where the safety people are to make sure they're in the right spot. I'm looking at the aid stations to make sure that they're being well ran, and I'll stop and help if needed. I need to sample the product,
Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love your passion. I really look forward to working with you and building you something that you like.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, man. Likewise.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you guys all have a great day.